Alright, now let us move on to a very important part of your PTE reading, that is active passive voice. Trust me guys, you will have a lot of questions based on active passive voice. So learn this topic, active passive voice, in the next one tenses very well. And please make proper notes, because learning this topic, it's a long topic. Learning it over and over again can be confusing. So make proper notes from the start. Alright. Now what we need to know about active passive voice is that there are two types of sentences. One is an active sentence and one is a passive sentence. Now what is the major difference between an active sentence and a passive sentence? Basically, it's about what you want to emphasize. So if you want to emphasize someone who is doing the work, you use active voice. If you want to emphasize the thing the work is done on, so you use a passive voice. So that's the difference between active and passive voice. Now, in many cases, you will have to select the options based on the type of sentence given in the passage, okay? So, if the sentence is active voice, there will be a different set of options. If the sentence is passive voice, there will be a different set of answers. So, based on active or passive voice of the sentence, you will be deciding your answers over there. Now, when you want to start learning about active passive voice, you need to know about the structure of a sentence, because active passive voice is completely based on how a sentence is structured in front of you. So, every sentence has three parts to it. That is the subject, the verb, and the object. So, every sentence has three parts: subject, verb, and object. And based on the position of these three parts, you will decide whether a sentence is active voice or passive voice. Okay? So first let us understand what is subject, object, and verb. So the three parts of the sentence, starting with the subject, I always say that subject is the doer of the sentence. Whoever is doing the work, that is the subject of a sentence, okay? So who is doing the action? Whoever is doing the action. Whenever you ask yourself this question, taking the sentence in mind, the answer is the subject. So in the sentence, whoever is doing the action, that is the subject. Object is the receiver of the sentence, okay? So what thing is the action done on? Whenever you ask this question on the sentence, like what thing is the action done on, the answer is the object of the sentence. And lastly, verb is the action itself, okay? So whoever is doing whatever action is going on, that is the verb of the sentence. Alright, now let us learn what is active voice and passive voice. If your subject comes before the verb, if the subject comes before the verb and you have such a sentence structure which says subject, verb, object, then it is an active voice, okay? So if I give you an example here, she is singing a song. Now over here, who is doing the work? Who is the subject of the sentence? She. So she is the subject of the sentence. Okay. Now, what thing is the work done on? What is she singing there? She is singing a song. So, this is the object of the sentence. And what is the action? Is singing is the action over here. So, this is the verb. So, you see, whenever a sentence has this structure, subject, verb, object, then it is an active voice sentence. Let us look at some more examples of active voices. The Britishers increased the tax after the famine. Okay. Now over here, who is doing the action? Sorry, always start with the verb. What action is done? Increasing the tax. So increasing the tax, this is the verb over here. Who is doing the action? The Britishers is doing the action because they are the subject. What thing is the action done on? So basically what is increased over here? The tax is increased, okay? So that is the object. After the famine is just an extra part of the sentence that is not really important for us. He is working on the project that is due tomorrow, okay? Now what is the action over here? Is working. So is working is your verb, okay? Who is doing the action? He is doing the action, so he is the subject. What is the action done on? On the project, so the project is the object over here. The dedicated research team at the university meticulously analyzed over 500 environmental samples collected from various ecosystems across the continent. Okay. Now, what is the work being done over here? What is the action? Analyzing things. So analyzing is your verb over here. Okay. Who did this action? The dedicated research team. So this whole thing is your subject over here. And what is the work done? What thing is the work done on? 500 environmental samples. So this is your object over here. In the next sentence, during the early hours of the morning, the rescue workers braved freezing temperatures, treacherous terrain, and relentless winds as they climbed the steep mountain to reach the stranded hikers. Now over here, what work is being done on? So the sentence is divided in two parts. So the first part is braved. This is the verb, and the second part is climbed. This is also the verb. Now, who did these actions of braving and climbing? That is the rescue workers. So the rescue workers are my subject. And what thing is the work done on? So the work is done on these kind of temperatures, terrain, and relentless winds, and climbing the steep mountain. So they are the objects over here. So you see, even this long sentence is in the form of subject, verb, object, and that is why it is my active voice. Last one, as part of the long-term conservation strategy, the wildlife biologists tagged and tracked several endangered sea turtles, recording their migration pattern, resting habits, and feeding behaviors. Again, there are two actions over here. So very first thing is tagged and tracked. This is one action. So this is first verb. And recording is the second action. So this is my second verb. Who is doing all of these actions? Wildlife biologist. So that is the subject. And what thing is the action done on? Sea turtles and migration patterns, resting habits, and behavior. So they are all my objects. Again, this very long sentence is in the form of subject, verb, object. So it is my active voice. Now the same way, let's learn about passive voice. Passive voice is the direct opposite of it. So whenever you put the object before the verb, it becomes passive voice. So when you have a sentence in this format where the object, verb, subject, this format is working, this sentence structure is there, then it is a passive voice. I have again a simple example here. A song is sung by her. So over here, who is doing, what action is going on? Is sung, so that is my verb. What thing is the action done on? It is done on the object, the song. So the song is my object. And who is doing this action? Her. She is doing this action. So she is my subject. Okay. So you see, this sentence was in the form of object, verb, subject, and that is why this is my passive voice sentence. Let's look at some more examples of passive voice. Dinner was served by the wait staff. Now, what is the action done over here? So, was served is my verb. That is my action. What was served? What was the action done on? Dinner. So, dinner is my object here. And who did this action? Who was the doer of the sentence? That was the wait staff. That is my subject. So, you see, this is object, verb, subject. Then it is a passive voice. The car was repaired by the mechanic. Okay. Now again over here, was repaired is my verb. That is my action. The action was done on a car. So that is my object. And and who was doing the action? It was the mechanic. So it is my subject. Okay. Let us read the other sentences. The final decision regarding the controversial infrastructure project was delayed repeatedly by the City Council due to ongoing public opposition and environmental concerns. Now, in such a long sentences, students a lot of time get confused about what is active, passive voice, or what is the subject, verb, and object. But you have to stick to the three definitions I told you. Verb is always the action. So, the action is delaying something. So, was delayed is the verb. Object is always the receiver of the sentence. That means the thing that the action is done on. So, final decision was the thing that was delayed. So, that is my object. Okay. Subject is always the doer of the sentence. So, whoever was doing the action over there, that is my subject. So, City Council was delaying the action there. So, City Council is my subject. Okay. Now, you see, the rest part of the sentence is not important for us. This sentence could have been framed like the final decision was delayed by the City Council. It was a small sentence, but they add extra parts to the sentence and make it longer in order to trick you guys. So you just have to stick to the three definitions that I have told you at the start of this topic. The groundbreaking medical research was conducted over a span of 5 years by an international team of scientists, and its findings were later published in several peer-reviewed journals and widely cited by experts in the field. Now over here, there are a lot of verbs going on. So that is was conducted because that is one of the actions. Then later published, this was also one of the actions, and cited. These were all those three actions. So there were 3 verbs over here. Okay. And what are all of these 3 verbs working on? The groundbreaking medical research. So this is my object over here. This is a common object for all the 3 verbs in this case. But there are 2 subjects. So first of all, the research was conducted by a team of scientists. So that is my subject. And later on, it was widely cited by the experts. So again, experts is also my second subject. So this sentence is basically 2 parts. The object is common for both the parts, but there are 2 different subjects. So you look at the sentence structure, and that is how you identify things. But the whole sentence still remains in passive voice because it is following object, verb, subject format. Followed by that, we have the sentence. A significant number of artifacts were unearthed during the excavation, and each item was meticulously catalogued, photographed and analyzed before being transported to the National Museum for public exhibition. Now over here, again we are going to find out what is the verb. The verb is unearthed. That was the verb. First verb is unearthed. Okay. Then you have was meticulously catalogued, photographed and analyzed. There are also other verbs. Okay, so they are all the verbs. Being transported is also a verb. And now let us look at the thing that the work is done on. So that is number of artifacts. So that is my object. Now again over here, the object is coming before the verb. So this is again a passive voice sentence. So I hope you understand that even in lengthy and challenging sentences, you just have to go with the object, verb, subject or subject, verb, object structures to find out your active and passive voices. Alright, now it is very important that whenever you have a sentence in front of you, you have to identify whether the sentence is in active voice or in passive voice. This is very, very important, guys, because if you're not able to identify the sentence, there are chances you will be going wrong with questions based on active passive voice. Also, you will be going wrong with questions based on tenses. Now let us look at how to find out the object, how to find out whether a sentence is in active voice or passive voice. And I always suggest students that you have to look at the position of the object. You will always look at the position of the object. If the object, now I hope you guys know for now that the object is always the receiver of the sentence, or it is it always answers the question, what thing is the action done on. So it is a receiver of the sentence, and it always answers the question, what thing is the action done on. So if the object is after the blank, okay, now I have written after the blank here because whenever you get questions based on active passive voice or tenses, it is the verb that you have to fill over there. They will not ask you to fill the subject or the object. They will always ask you to fill the verb over there. So in the blank, you have to fill the verb itself. Now, if your object is coming before the blank, if it is coming after the blank, it is active voice. Okay. So you remember this sentence structure: subject, verb, object. Now you see over here, the object is coming after the verb, which in your case is going to be your blank. But if the object is before the blank, okay, if the object is before the blank, in that case, which is going to be your verb, okay, then it is in passive voice. So if you remember this, object, verb, subject. So you see over here, the object is coming before the blank. Okay, so it is going to be a passive voice. So you will always look at the position of the object. If the object is after the blank, it is active voice. If the object is before the blank, it is passive voice. Now, a lot of times students ask me, ma'am, why only the position of the object? Why can't we decide it with the subject? That if the subject comes before the blank, then it is active voice. If the subject comes after the blank, it is passive voice. I do not recommend students to go through the method of subject. Yes, that is also logically correct, grammatically correct, but that can be a little confusing. Okay, reason being that because the subject, okay, can be hidden in some passive sentences. What happens is the subject can be hidden in some passive sentences. Okay, so if I give you an example, let us look at the sentence I have over here. The photo of the moon was captured on the camera. Okay, now let us try to find out the subject, verb and object in this sentence. So now we know very well that was captured is going to be my verb over here. So because action, verb is the action, so capturing is the action here. So was captured is my action. Now what do you think about the object? Object is the receiver of the sentence. So what do you think is the capturing action done on? What thing is the capturing action done on? So that is the photo of the moon. The photo of the moon over here is my object because that is the receiver of the sentence. So where is the subject? So we have identified the object, we have identified the subverb, but where is the subject? Where is the subject, guys? Okay, a lot of students think over here that camera is going to be the subject. Okay, but understand one thing, the camera can't go by itself and click a photo of the moon. Okay, that is not possible. A camera is not a human being, or in any case a camera won't go and do it by itself. Okay, so where is the subject? The subject is hidden. So as I told you that in some passive sentences, the subject can be hidden. Okay. Over here, the subject is hidden and it can be added into the sentence like by her, by me, by NASA. So you see over here, this is how we can add the subject. The photo of the moon was captured on the camera by her. The photo of the moon was captured on the camera by me. The photo of the moon was captured on the camera by NASA. Okay. Let me tell you one thing straight away, guys. In a passive sentence, okay, subject is always identified with the word by. So whenever you have the word by, whatever becomes after that is going to be your subject in passive sentences. So that's why when you guys thought that on the camera can be my subject, in that case the sentence would have been formed like the photo of the moon was captured by the camera, not on the camera. Okay. To make camera the subject, we have to write by the camera, not on the camera over there. So this is how you identify your subject, verb, object or object, verb, subject structures and find out your active passive voice. And that is why I always suggest students, please use your objects, not the subject. Reason being, if the subject is hidden and it's a very long and challenging sentence, you might get confused and you might waste a lot of time or get to the wrong answer. That is why I always use the object, and always please remember that the subject can be hidden only in passive sentences, guys. Please don't find the subject hidden in active sentences, because in active sentences, the sentence itself starts with the subject. So you can't have an active sentence with a hidden subject, okay? It can only be hidden in some passive sentences. Alright, now when you have learned everything about active passive voice and you have attempted a few questions, let us move on to the next topic of tenses. Now what will happen in your exam is that tenses and active passive voice will always be interlinked. That means you will be having questions on tenses, but you will have to apply the rules of active passive voice along with it. They always go hand in hand and are part of the game as a pair. Now what happens in your exam is, so basically when you talk about tenses, there are a total of 12 types of tenses. So if you can see the chart over here on the screen, you have 12 types of tenses. You have them in 3 categories. So first is your present tense tenses, past tense tenses and future tense tenses. Okay, so for your present tense, you have simple present tense, simple past tense and simple future tense. These are your simple tenses. Then you have continuous tenses. Okay, so simple tenses don't really talk much about the context. They are just giving information. So I eat an apple, I ate an apple, or I will eat an apple. So it's basically just talking about eating apple, but not like as an ongoing process, or it's not like completion of anything or something like that. Okay, It is just giving simple informations. When you talk about continuous tenses like present continuous, past continuous, future continuous, they always talk about ongoing actions like I am eating an apple, I was eating an apple, or I will be eating an apple, like that. When you talk about perfect tenses, they always talk about the completion. They always hint towards the completion of the work. Okay, so present perfect, past perfect, and future perfect, they will always talk about when the work is completed. So I have eaten an apple. Okay, so that means I started eating apple in the past and I have completed eating it just now, like that. And then there are perfect continuous tenses. That means they are showing that the action is half completed and half ongoing. So you have present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous, and future perfect continuous in them. So there are total of 12 types of tenses. Okay, and you will be assessed on based on these 12 tenses along with your active passive voice. Now what happens in your PTE exam is, basically your PTE exam is not like a 10th standard exam or not like a school exam. Basically when you want to learn tenses, we always start by learning certain formulas. Like suppose if I talk about continuous tenses, so present continuous tense, so there's a formula for that. So the formula for present continuous tense is subject plus is-am-are plus V1 plus ing. Okay, so this is the formula for a present continuous tense. So all the 12 tenses have their own formulas. Okay, now what happens in your school exams is that they ask you to convert a tense. So suppose if they give a sentence in the present continuous tense, they can ask you to convert it into past perfect continuous or something like that. Okay, but in your PTE exam, there is no such conversion questions asked. Your questions are based on options. Either the options given in the set below, that is your reading fill in the blanks or your drag and drop blanks, or they are a set of 4 options, which is your reading, writing, fill in the blanks. Okay, so your questions are based on options. So what we do is we use 3 steps. I always suggest students that you have to use 3 steps and find out the answer of these kind of questions. Okay, now what we take the help of is method of elimination. So what we do is we use 3 steps, okay, and we start eliminating the wrong options until we come towards the final step. Okay, so this is how you will be solving your questions based on tenses. And if you are still confused what are tense based questions, a classic example can be where you have options given like is considered, was considering, had been considered. So these are the classic options for a tenses and active passive voice mixed questions. Now what you have to do is you will be using 3 steps. I will show you the 3 steps, and we will be using method of elimination, both of them, to give the correct answer to our tense based questions. Okay, so the 3 steps that we use to get your tenses is, first of all, you will identify the tense. Okay, then you will look for active passive voice, and lastly you will understand the context requirement. So this is how we will go with your tenses. Okay, so what do I mean by identifying the tense? Okay, so whenever you have a question in your exam, your first and foremost thing is to find out what is the tense of the passage or the sentence. So you have to find out what tense is your passage or your sentence following. Okay, is it present tense, is it past tense, or is it future tense? Okay, this is what we are going to find out first and foremost. Okay, guys, understand one thing, you are solving questions based on tenses, so definitely your first and foremost step is to find out whether it is present, past, or future over there. Okay, now the set of rules that I always give students is, these are your set of rules. Okay, whenever you have these kind of hints like is, am, are, has, have, like if anywhere in that particular sentence or in that particular passage you have words like is, am, are, has, have, that means you are talking in present tense. If you have been given universal truths, like let's say the sun rises in the east, okay, or the earth rotates on its axis. So these are present tense because universal truths are always in present tense. They are never in past or future tense. If you're talking about recurring events or habits, they are also present tenses. Like if I give you an example, Christmas falls on the 25th of December every year. So it's a recurring event. Every year on 25th December, we will have Christmas. Okay, or we are talking about habits like I brush my teeth twice daily. So these are all present tenses because they're talking about recurring events, habits, or any universal truth. Apart from that, if you're talking about any events that are happening in the present time right now, or you're talking about, or if the sentence is having any simple present tense sentence given to you, like if a sentence has a sentence like India struggles with a large amount of population. Okay, so over here, India struggles with a large amount of population. This is a simple present tense sentence. So this gives you an idea as well that okay, the setting of the passage is in present tense. Now, when you want to talk about past tenses, you will be having these kind of hints given. Was, were, or had. So anywhere in the sentence or that passage, if you find was, were, or had, that means you are in the past tense. Or if you're talking about any past events, let me give you an example of, let's say, World War II. So if your passage is based on World War II, automatically everything goes in the past tense. Okay. Or if there is any simple past tense given in your sentence, okay, that is also an indication that we are in the past tense. Okay, and for future you will have these kind of hints: will, would, or shall. Will, would, or shall, they always represent future tenses. Okay, I will eat an apple, or India will excel with a great economy. This is how your future sentences are formed. Or if you're talking about any future events, let's say you're talking about World War III. So it has not started yet, so if, it is anticipated in the future, so it will go in the future tense. Or if there's any simple future tense sentence given to you, that means you're talking in the future tense. Okay. Now it is very, very important that you are finding out these tenses so in the very beginning. Okay. Let's have a look at some examples. So I have given you some sentences over here, and these are the hints that can give you an understanding whether it is in present, past, or future. So let us look at the sentence here. They have visited every continent except Antarctica in their quest to explore the world. Okay. Now over here, have gives us an understanding that this is a present tense sentence. While she was giving her presentation, the fire alarm suddenly went off, causing everyone to evacuate the building. Okay. Now over here as well, words like was and went give us an understanding that okay, this is in the past tense. Okay. By the time the company celebrates its anniversary, I will have been working there for 15 years. Okay. So again over here, the word will gives you an understanding that okay, we are in the future tense. Okay. She paints breathtaking landscapes whenever she feels inspired by nature. Now you see, this is simple present tense. She paints something, or she feels inspired by nature. Okay, so over here these are simple present tenses, so it gives an understanding that we are in the present tense. By the time we arrived at the cinema, the movie had already begun. Okay. Now again, this is simple past tense. That is why we will go with past tense. Okay. At this time next week, we will be cruising through the Mediterranean on our long-awaited vacation. Again, will is given. That means you are in the future tense. Okay. So this is how your hints will help you to identify your present, past, and future tenses. Okay. All right. So I'll show you why we are doing this. Okay, why are we trying to find out what is the tense of the passage or the sentence, and why it is your first and foremost step. Okay, let us say for example you are doing your reading writing blanks and you have a sentence that is in the present tense. So you have a sentence that is in the present tense. Okay, and the 4 options given to you in your reading writing blanks can be like this. Let's say option A is have considered. Okay, option B is will consider. Option C is considered. And option D is was considering. Okay, now these are the 4 options given to you for a sentence which is in the present tense. Okay, now when you start by identifying the tense first, when you start with your first and foremost set, you see that okay, I have to take a sentence which is in the present tense. So let us look at my options that are have considered, will consider, considered and was considering. Now over here, will considered is future tense, so that can't be my answer. Considered and was considering is my past tense, so they also can't be my answer. So my straight away answer is have considered. Okay, so when you go step by step, you will be able to go quicker and be more accurate. Okay, a lot of times I see that students try to make the sense of what's going on over there, and they are trying to put too much of tense formulas and everything. Trust me, if you follow these 3 steps the way I'm explaining it to you, you will be able to get 100% in your tense related questions or your active passive voice related questions. Okay, because when you are directly going on into too much of in-depth knowledge and in-depth context, there are chances that you will miss out on the simple hints given in the sentence. So always try to get your answer in the simplest format first, and if needed we will be going on towards the other steps in the explanation that I'm giving you. Alright, so coming back to our series, so up till now we have understood that how to identify the tense, and this is always going to be your first and foremost step, because as I told you, if you start from the 3rd step, there are chances you will get more confused and you will keep going wrong over there rather than being correct and fast. Now let us look at step 2, which is looking for active passive voice. Okay, definitely guys, you have understood so far what is active passive voice, how to identify an active passive voice. You know that you will be looking for the object of the sentence, and if the object is before the blank, it is passive voice. If the object is after the blank, it is active voice. Okay, so always figure out if the sentence is in active voice or passive voice. Okay, you always have to figure out if your sentence is in active voice or passive voice. Okay, because why is it our step 2? Let's say suppose if you go in the exam and you have such a kind of question. So as for now, I'm giving you again a sentence which is in present tense. Okay, and these are your 4 options. So these are your 4 options over there in the sentence. So now over here, applying our step 1, we understand that okay, if the sentence is in present tense, so I can't put was considered or will consider my answer. But you see, you are still stuck with 2 answers, that is option A has considered and option B is considering. Okay, now when you are stuck with such a question, you will always go and find out the active passive voice next. Okay, Okay, so this is how you look for active passive voice through the position of the object. Obviously, now you know that if the object is after the blank, that is your word, it is active voice. And if the object is before the blank, it is passive voice. So this is something we know so far. Now, based on your active passive voice, you will be putting the structure of your verb. Okay, so in active passive voice, these are the structures that we follow. For active voice, is, am, are, was, were plus VING. So you will have is, am, are, was, were based on your tenses, and then you will always have the ing form of verb or a gerund over there. Okay, so he is considering to apply for the scholarship, like that. Okay, or you will be having has, have, had plus the V3 or the past participle or the third form of verb. Okay, he has applied for the scholarship, like that. Or you will be having be or be plus VING. Let's say he has been applying for the scholarship, like that. So again, if with be or be, if you have VING, then it is active voice. Modals. Now I'm pretty sure you guys know what are modals now. They are words like will, would, can, could, shall, should, may, might, and they will always give you the intent or the expression of a sentence. Now with modals, if you are putting V1, obviously after modals you always have the first form of verb. That is a grammar rule, and any sentence that has a modal always has to be in the active voice. And your simple sentences, simple tenses are also in active voice. Simple past, simple present, simple future are always in active voice. Okay, moving towards passive voice. So for passive voice, when you say is, am, are, was, were, and then you add V3, the third form of verb or the past participle form of verb, it becomes passive voice. Like the scholarship is being applied by him, like that. So this is how you will make it in the passive voice. Again, being, after being, if you put V3, then it is passive voice. Or be after that, if you put V3, then again that is passive voice. Okay, so this is the formula that you have to remember and memorize perfectly in order to be quick over there. Okay, if you are going in the exam and you don't remember your methods and your tricks and tips, there are chances that you will just spend a lot of time over there looking to the options, navigating the passage over and over again, and you won't be able to apply what you've learned straight away over there. So make sure you learn all these tables that I have showed over here for your tenses very well. They should be memorized perfectly so that you are able to apply them accurately and quickly in the exam. Okay, now let us say, suppose if you are having a sentence in the present tense. Okay, so the sentence is in the present tense. Okay, and you have these four options. So your options are is considered, was considered, has considered, and will consider. Okay, so these are your four options. Now again, as we know that is in present tense, so you will straight away eliminate option B and D, which is in past or the future. And now you are left with two sentences, is considered and has considered. Now when you are stuck in such a situation, what you'll do is you'll go for your step 2, which you have just learned, that is looking for active passive voice. Okay, so along with present tense, I give you information that this sentence is in active voice. Okay, now in this case, what you will do is you will go and look for the option which is an active voice. So is considered, we know that if is plus V3 is there, then it is passive voice. So I will say that this is not my correct answer, and has considered is my correct answer over there. Okay, so this is how you use it step by step. Okay, if you do not need to go for your active passive voice, be smart over there and only do your step 1 and move forward. Okay, and then in the second step also try and look for active passive voice, because that is the second point of confusion that they can present with you over there. And if you still don't get the answer, then you move on to the step 3, which I will explain you after this slide. Okay, let's look at some more examples before we wrap up active passive voice and have a better understanding with it. So over here you see the university offers a wide range of scholarship to international students every year to promote diversity and academic excellence across its multiple campuses. So over here, every year is the hint given to you that this sentence has to be in the present tense, because it is a recurring event. Okay, and then the word offers, which is a simple tense, gives you an understanding that it is in active voice as well. Then a new eco-friendly public library is currently being built in the heart of the city by the city council to encourage sustainable learning practices. Okay, now over here again, when you have the word is, it gives you understanding it is in present tense. And if you have being built, that is being plus the V3 form of verb, then it is passive voice as well. The development team had successfully launched a cutting-edge mobile application that helped users manage their time more efficiently. Again, helped gives us an understanding it can be past tense. Okay, plus had also gives us an understanding that it is past tense. And then you have had successfully launched. So again, as you know that adverbs are not important in the sentence, so we will say had launched over there, and that means it is had plus V3 situation, so it is active voice. Several ancient artifacts had been damaged during transport, were carefully restored by the museum staff using highly specialized equipment and techniques. Okay, now over here when you see this, had is given, so again we understand that this sentence is in past tense. Along with that, it is been damaged. That means it is been plus V3, so it is also in passive voice. Okay, so this is how you will look for tenses plus active passive. Understand one thing, once you have done your step 1, so you carry it forward. Okay, so when you have found out the type of tense, you carry the type of tense along with active passive and then move on with your work. Okay, now let's say even if these two steps are not enough, okay, even after doing these 2 steps you are still not able to find the final answer, then you will move on to step 3, that is understanding the context requirement. Okay, now understanding the context requirement, this is important because based on the context we have to check if the sentence is continuous, completed, or half completed, half ongoing. Okay, so as I told you in the start, the 12 types of tenses, they all represent some or the other action. Okay, simple tenses give simple information, continuous tenses they give ongoing information, perfect tenses they always talk about the completion of an information, and perfect continuous they are a mix, so they will talk about half completed, half ongoing actions. Okay, so that is why if you are still stuck, you will move on to step 3 and find out what is the context, what is being talked about in the passage to give your final answer. Okay, all right, so let's talk about ongoing tenses first. Again, as I told you, since you are done with step 1 plus step 2, that is active passive, now you will continue and carry forward your active passive along with understanding the context requirement. So this is another table that you should learn perfectly. You should have it on your tips so that the moment you have questions based on active passive voice or tenses, you are able to apply it as it is. Okay, talking about active voice, so if it's an ongoing situation like where the work is being completed at a particular time, okay, like it is in progression. Okay, so for active voice your formula becomes is am are was were plus VING. Okay, it's very simple, is am are was were plus VING. If I give you an example, She was completing the dance practice. It's very easy. She was completing the dance practice. Okay. But if you move towards passive voice, then it becomes is and are, was, were plus being plus V3. Okay. So in an ongoing action with passive voice, you put be is and are, was, were plus being plus V3. Okay. If I give you an example, when I went into the room, the dance practice was being completed by her. That means the dance practice was not complete. It was in the progression of being completed. Okay. Now, when you're talking about completed action, so when you're talking about an information or an action which is already completed, this is how you use your active passive voice. Okay, so you use has, have, had plus V3 for your active voice. Like when I went into the room, she had completed the dance practice. So when I went into the room, she had completed the dance practice. It was all done and dusted. And when you move towards passive voice, your sentence becomes is and are, was, were plus V3. Now you don't put a being in between, you are just saying is and are, was, were plus V3. Like when I went into the room, the dance practice was completed by her. Okay, that means the dance practice was already completed. It was not in a progression to complete. Okay. Now moving towards cases where you think the half the work is done and half of it is still being continued at a particular point. So half ongoing, half completed tenses, you will go with has, have, had plus been plus VING for active voice. Okay. Like when I went into the room, she had been completing the dance practice. So she had been completing the dance practice. That means let's say partial dance practice was done and half of it she was still continuing at that time. Okay. For passive voice, you make it has, have, had, been plus V3. Okay. Like when I went into the room, the dance practice had been completed by her. That means half the practice was completed, half is still ongoing. Let me give you a hint. Whenever you see the word BEEN, been, that means you are talking about half ongoing and half are completed actions. Okay. So whether it is ING or V3, that will decide the active and passive voice in that case. Okay. Now coming towards modals, whenever you have modals, that is can, could, shall, should, may, might, must, or so, these kind of words. If it is a simple modal plus V1 situation, it is active voice. Okay. But if you want to introduce the word be over there, then it has to be modals plus be plus VING for active voice. So active voice has two chances here, that is modals plus V1 or modals plus be plus VING. Okay. If I give you an example, it can be like she can complete the project. Okay, so over here she can complete the project. It is an active voice. Then you can say she can be completing the project today. Okay, over here also we are saying that this is active voice sentence. That means she can work on the project today itself. Okay. Then when you're talking about modals and passive voice, you make it modals plus B plus V3. Okay. Like the project can be completed by her today. So now when you want to put it in passive voice, you just put B plus V3 with the modal. Okay. If it's a simple sentence which is just giving simple information, it will only be active voice with your simple tenses, that is simple past, simple future, and simple present. You don't have any passive voice for simple tenses. Okay. Now let us understand this. Let's say suppose if you are stuck in a situation where you have a sentence in present tense plus it is an active voice. Okay. And you have been given these four options over there. So your options are is considering, had considered, then you have is considered, and you have has considered. So here you have four options given in front of you, and I'm giving you an information that the sentence is in present tense plus it is active voice. Okay, so over here, because it is in present tense, we will straight away remove had considered because had becomes past tense, and if it is an active voice, that means you will remove all the passive voice sentences. Okay, so we will straight away remove is considered because it's considered as passive voice, and the only active voice sentences left here are is considering and has considered. Okay, now this is a classic case of scenario where you'll go and use the concept that we have just learned, that is your step 3, understanding the context requirement. Okay, as I always tell you, don't jump directly to the third step. A lot of students do that and they just keep navigating the passage over and over again. Okay, but you see, the first 2 steps were very simple. Okay, the first step was just finding the tenses, and that could give you straight away answers. Let me tell you, 70% questions will be done within the first 2 steps. Okay, there are very rare chances that you will have to jump on to step 3 over here. Okay, and I'll give you another set of information that your sentence is an ongoing process. Okay, so now you know that has considered, that is has plus V3 goes for completed processes, so you are straight away left with is considering. Okay, so this is how you will use your method of eliminations, and the fact that PTE exam is based on options to your advantage over there. Trust me, learning 12 formulas for tenses and learning how to interchangeably use them is very tedious. But if you want to smartly use your time, you can follow just these 3 steps and get your final answer. Okay? Alright, let us look at some more examples over here. The government is not implementing new policies to reduce carbon emissions as urgently as needed. Okay, now over here is gives us an understanding it is in present tense. Okay, is plus ing gives us an understanding it is an active voice. Okay, and now you see is not implementing new policies. Okay, again this gives us an understanding it's also an ongoing statement. Okay, then the final budget proposal had not been approved by the manager before the financial meeting began. Okay, now had gives us an understanding that it is past tense. Okay, been approved, V3 gives us an understanding it is passive voice, plus if you see the over here, when the meeting began up till then, it was not completely approved. Okay, so like half of it might be approved, or it was still in the process of approval, so we will say it is half complete and half ongoing action. Okay, by the time the tech expo begins, the startup will have developed a working prototype of their AI powered medical diagnostic tool. Again, will gives us an understanding it is future tense. Okay, have plus V3 gives us understanding it is active voice, and again have plus V3, and you look at the context over there that when the tech expo will begin, it can be any time in the future. Okay, the prototype will be ready, so it will be completed and it will be all ready, so it is a completed action. Okay, so this is how you use the context over there to identify what is going on in the story, and then you put your step 3 over there. Okay, I hope you guys have really understood this tenses part very well. I know it is very confusing, and I have seen that when students learn it in the start, they are a bit confused. I would really encourage you to go back to the slides and watch the tenses part again, because trust me, 20% of the questions will be based on tenses. Okay, and I don't want you to lose 20% marks of your reading blanks and reading writing blanks over there, because that's a huge margin and you can lose your 7 each or 8 each scores. Okay, now moving forward, so up till now you've learned everything about tenses. As soon as you get a question based on tenses, try applying these 3 methods. Okay, because if you are just not applying your method, just learning them through the videos, you won't be really able to apply it straight away in the exams. Whenever you get a question based on tenses, even if you know the answer, try applying it first, applying the 3 steps first. Alright, so those were the three steps that we needed. Now, the last thing I want to cover before doing any questions based on tenses is had plus V3 versus V2 concept. Okay, we have to understand that had plus V3, that means had accepted or had considered, these kind of words, that is past tense plus active voice plus completed passage, that is an informal expression. Okay, so had plus V3 is informal. It's a slang English, and we don't really use it on a daily basis, or we do use it, but it is informal as compared to V2, that is simple past tense. Okay, so for example, I want to say that, okay, yesterday I had pizza. Okay, I will not say that I had made pizza yesterday. Okay, because yesterday is just like, what, say 10-15 hours ago. So I won't say I had made pizza yesterday. I made pizza yesterday. Okay, so this is how we understand that had plus V3 has too much emphasis, and it is informal. We don't really use it when we have been given the option of simple past tense. Okay, so when do you use had plus V3 and when do you not? Okay, for that, first of all, understand what is the definition of had plus V3. That is your past perfect tense. So what is the definition of your past perfect tense? Something that started in the past and was completed before another point in the past. Okay, so something that started in the past and was completed before any other point in the past. Okay, so let us say if you have this timeline over here, okay, and there are two events on this timeline, event 1 and event 2, and you want to show that event 1, okay, happened before event 2. So you want to show that event 1 took place before event 2. That is when you give it had plus V3. So event 1 will take had plus V3 and event 2 will take simple V2. Okay, I have some examples over here. She had accepted the offer letter before we approached her. Again, there are two events over here. Over here, event 1 is like she accepted the offer letter. Okay, and event 2 is approaching her. Okay, so over here I want to show that event 1 happened before event 2, so I will give it had plus V3. So she had accepted the offer letter before we approached her. So we approached, that is the second event, so that will only take V2. Okay, basically you want to show that event 1 is more past than event 2. And it is decided on the basis of the timeline, guys. Okay, a lot of times students feel that, okay, whichever event is given first in the sentence, that is more past. That is not how it works. It is based on the timeline. So if you look at the second sentence here, I have rephrased it in a way that I am putting had plus V3 in the later part. Like, we approached her after she had accepted the offer letter. Again, over here, event 2 approaching her takes V2. Okay, and she had accepted the offer letter, that is event 1, which happened before, takes had plus V3. Okay, so it doesn't matter which event is written in your sentences first, it is based on the timeline. Okay, now, so when do you use this rule? Always understand, you use this rule when you are given two events or let me say two actions in the same sentence. So if you are given two events or two actions in the same sentence, that is where you will apply this had plus V3 versus V2 rule. Okay, otherwise you will just stick to the three steps that you have learned. First, identify the tense. Second, look for active passive, and third is look for the context. Okay.